From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. Workers at a site in South Carolina that once made key parts for nuclear bombs in the U.S. have found a radioactive wasp nest, but officials said there is no danger to anyone. Employees who routinely check radiation levels at the Savannah River site near Aiken found a wasp nest on July 3rd on a post near tanks where liquid nuclear waste is stored, according to a report from the U.S. Department of Energy. The nest had a radiation level 10 times what is allowed by federal regulations, officials said. The workers sprayed the nest with insect killer, removed it, and disposed of it as radioactive waste. No wasps were found, officials said. The report said there is no leak from the waste tanks, and the nest was likely radioactive through what it called, quote, on-site legacy radioactive contamination, end quote, from the residual radioactivity left from when the site was fully operational. The watchdog group, Savannah River Site Watch, said the report was at best incomplete since it doesn't detail where the contamination came from, how the wasps might have encountered it, and the possibility there could be another radioactive nest if there is a leak somewhere. Meta stocks were soaring in after-hours trading and making investors quite happy. Meta's artificial intelligence spending spree appears to be paying off with investors who sent the company's stock soaring after hours on Wednesday following a blowout quarterly earnings report. The Menlo Park, California-based company easily beat Wall Street's expectations for the second quarter, helped by higher advertising revenue and a growing user base on its flagship social media platforms. The money is helping to fund the company's massive investments in AI development and hiring top talent at eye-popping compensation levels. Not only has Meta made demonstrable strides with AI, but it's helping to future-proof itself as a growth company should its family of apps get affected by the current antitrust case or changing social media sentiment, said Forrester Research Director Mike Prue. Meta is facing an antitrust case that's now awaiting a judge's decision and could force the company to break off WhatsApp and Instagram, startups Meta bought more than a decade ago that have since grown into social media powerhouses. The company earned $18.34 billion, or $7.14 per share, in the April through June period. That's up 36% from $13.47 billion, or $5.16 per share, in the same period a year earlier. Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced on Wednesday, the latest in a series of symbolic announcements that are part of a broader global shift against Israel's policies in Gaza. Prime Minister Carney convened a cabinet meeting to discuss the situation in the battered Palestinian territory. He said it came after he discussed the crisis with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who announced a similar move on Tuesday. Leaders are under mounting pressure over the issue as scenes of hunger in Gaza have horrified so many across the world. The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable, Carney said. Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025, Carney said, a move that he said was predicated on the Palestinian Authority, quote, holding general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part and to demilitarize the Palestinian state, end quote. Carney said he's not in any way, shape, or form minimizing that scale of that task, though he added it was clearly not a possibility in the near term. Much has to happen before a democratic, viable state is established, he said. Pressure to formally recognize Palestinian statehood has increased since French President Emmanuel Macron announced last week that his country will become the first major Western power to recognize a Palestinian state in September. Carney said he spoke to Macron on Wednesday. On Tuesday, Keir Starmer said Britain would recognize a state of Palestine before the UN General Assembly in September unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution. Carney said Canada is working with other states to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution, to not allow the facts on the ground, deaths on the ground, the settlements on the ground, the expropriations on the ground, to such an extent that this is not possible. Malta also announced Wednesday that they will recognize the state of Palestine in September. That's the news at this hour. Join us Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. for another edition of Stand with Pride, a weekly review of the news on social media. You can now find PEP Radio on Alexa. Simply tell your device, Alexa, play PEP Radio. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.